Hello and a very warm welcome to the Makuri Islands, where the riders are poised on the Festival Harbour Boardwalk for Stage 3 of 4x4, the Island Hopper. 18 kilometres of harbour flats, dirt sectors and one defining climb to the Shisa, all in the 330 to 450 ZRS category.
And the clock's dropped. The timber rattles beneath them. They're away off the boardwalk. So, Chloe, before the harbour winds them up, who's getting your money to win this one?
Well, the whole race tips on one effort, Simon. That 5-minute grind up to the Shisa at a touch over 2%. So I'm reading 20-minute power to weight. Oyster tops the field there at 3.7, one of the lighter men here, and Selix is right alongside at 3.6, with a genuine sprint to back it up. Those two are my picks to make the selection on the climb. But don't lose Poole. Only 3 flat on the long stuff, yet the fastest finishing kick in this entire field and the best recent form on the start line. 3 strong results on the bounce. If this regroups on that long bamboo descent and comes back together for the flat run-in, he is the one the climbers will fear at the banner. And to actually watch that suffering register, Simon, keep an eye on the live Limit Leaderboard down the side of the screen. 3 bars for every rider. The heart at the top tracks how near they are to a best ever effort at that heart rate. The flame in the middle is the live one, a second-by-second read on how close they are to their systemic ceiling right now. And the lightning bolt at the bottom is power, how close they sit to a personal best for whatever duration they're holding. Full and green means they're comfortable. Draining toward empty means they're on the rivet. And when a bar empties out and flashes, they've gone somewhere they have never been before.
Lovely stuff, Chloe. And just one quick housekeeping note before we get stuck in. You'll spot a wheel or two out on the road who aren't on our official start sheet, so they won't feature in the call or on that leaderboard. Eyes on the names that count, because the harbour's behind them now and we are racing. And straight away there's a dig. GravelRodeo stamps on the pedals on the boardwalk flats, very nearly 600 watts out of one of the bigger units in this field, scrapping hard for the wheel into the first loop. A real injection of pace this early, Chloe.
An injection of pace into a draft, Simon, which is the cycling equivalent of sprinting to be first in a queue. On a flat, sheltered boardwalk like this, the rider tucked in third wheel is getting almost the same speed for a fraction of the watts. So all this early heroism out front, it's just enthusiastic accounting. The bill comes due on the climb to the Shisa, and these are matches you do not get refunded.
Enthusiastic accounting! Only you could make a bike race sound like a tax return, Chloe. But there's romance in this place. Surely you'll grant me that. Lanterns strung over the water, the festival bunting snapping in the breeze, a guardian statue waiting for them up at the high point. 18 kilometres of paradise, and yet every soul out there is busy thinking about nothing but the pain to come.
And here's the first warning light on the board, Simon. TonyM is already over his sustainable ceiling, grinding away above his critical power just to hold position on a flat boardwalk. That flame bar is starting to drain, and we haven't even reached a single proper rise yet. For a bigger engine like his, spending this freely down here is exactly the kind of overdraft that gets called in on the climb. So let's take stock as they wind through the harbor, Simon, and the headline is one I did not see coming. The bunch is still essentially all together. Bars green, everyone metering it nicely ahead of that first inner road riser. But one of my 2 favorites is already in trouble. Oyster has lost contact and slipped into a second group, the better part of half a minute adrift. And the climb that suits him is still kilometers up the road. He cannot afford to let that gap settle, because chasing alone on these flats is the most expensive way there is to spend a race.
They tip over the bridge now and onto the Mechile descent. A few seconds of free speed before the road bites again. Robbo, you've raced these Urakazi roads. What's the bunch actually thinking as they cross over here?
Yeah, righto. And not a lot, mate. That's the honest answer. This descent's a freebie, so they're all just sitting up, having a breather, letting the legs spin out. But Chloe's dead right about Oyster. Once you're off the back on these inner roads, there's no draft to save you, and the road's about to point up. He needs to claw back on right here, on the easy bit. Well, that half minute becomes a minute real quick.
And there's GravelRodeo winding it up again. Can't sit still, that man. No sooner has the descent handed out a breather than he's back on the gas, first to lift the pace as the road readies to rise toward the mangrove maze. He's the liveliest set of legs in this bunch so far.
Liveliest or twitchiest, Simon, and the board will tell us which in about 90 seconds. The mangrove maze riser is the first real test of the day. Only a % or so, but it's the first time the road asks a question nobody can answer from the draft. That's where these early matches start showing up on the bill. The riders who've been busy down here suddenly find the climb costs them double.
Costs them double! I'll be hiding behind the sofa for that one. And here it comes. The road swings off toward the innermost loop, twisting up through the mangrove maze. The free speed is spent, the breather's over, and the first selection of the day is about to be drawn out of them, meter by twisting meter.
Though, don't expect fireworks on this one, Simon. A 1% riser is a tickle, not a guillotine. It nibbles at the power bars and shuffles the deck a little, but it's nowhere near steep enough to break anyone. This is just the road clearing its throat. The real question doesn't get asked until that 2% grind to the Shisa, and that's still 2 loops awaiting away.
And there's the first real dig of the climb. Hand kicks as the maze tips up, nearly 4 watts per kilo out of one of the lightest men in the race. He's stretching the bunch into a thin line through the mangroves, testing whether anyone's legs are caught napping. Lovely, aggressive racing on the first proper rise.
And the board says it didn't stick, Simon. Hands lit his power bar right up, sitting just over threshold to hold that front position. But look behind him. Nobody's flame bar so much as flickered. The line stretched, everyone covered it comfortably, and now he's the one carrying the cost of a dig that bought him nothing. On a riser this gentle, that's effort spent for scenery.
Now it's Peregrino who answers, and this is a different kind of effort altogether. The road kicks to 3% at the top of the maze, and the big Mexican throws 360 watts at it, hauling himself up through the line. He's well over his threshold and burning into his reserves to do it, Chloe. That is a man who wants to be at the very front when this loop crests.
And there's the bill arriving, Simon, right on schedule. TonyM is throwing a huge number at this, well over 4 watts a kilo, but his flame bar is draining toward empty, and he's the one sliding backward through the group. His systemic load has shot up in just the last few seconds, and that's the overspend from the harbor being called in. Enormous effort now, buying him nothing but a slow drift off the back of the wheel.
And Peregrino has not sat up. Everyone else tucks for the free speed off the maze crest. He keeps the hammer down. 5 watts per kilo on a descent, driving over the top and trying to steal a march while the rest freewheel. He's forcing this, Chloe, refusing to let the road give the bunch a breather.
He's dragged himself to the front of it, Simon, but read his own board before you fall in love with the move. His systemic bar's now better than 2/3 gone, and the power bar's climbing fast with it. He's spending like the finish is around the corner, and it isn't. There's a dirt sector and a proper kicker still to come on this loop alone. Brave? Yes. Sustainable? The numbers say he's writing checks the back half of this race will want cashed.
And would you believe it? That relentless pressing has actually worked. Peregrino has clipped off the front on his own. A small but real gap now between him and the bunch as they near the dirt. The chasers simply let him dangle out there. And what a who's who it is. Selix sitting pretty with a near full board. Poole tucked in and fresh as you like. All of them watching and waiting. And spare a thought for Oyster. Now over a minute adrift in a third group. His race sadly slipping away. So the question, Chloe, brave solo move or a man about to be reeled in and spat out? And the live wire won't let it lie. GravelRodeo flings himself off the front of the chase, nearly 500 watts down the mangrove descent, trying to launch himself across to Peregrino before the dirt. Suddenly, this isn't a procession at all. There's a bridge being attempted, and the whole shape of the race could swing in the next few seconds.
And it's Flores who's taken it up, Simon, one of the most experienced heads in this whole race, well over 4 watts a kilo on the front, trying to organize a pursuit. But here's the worry for the chase. The bridge fizzled out behind him, and even with Flores buried on the front, the leader's gap is still inching out, not coming back. One man chasing is not a chase. Until 2 or 3 commit and rotate, that lone leader keeps stealing road.
But now it's working, Chloe. Flores keeps grinding away on the front across this rattling dirt, and the gap is finally coming down. The loose stuff is no friend to a lone leader, and behind Flores the whole bunch has begun to wind up. Peregrino's watts are dropping as his lead shrinks. The elastic he stretched so bravely is being pulled taut again.
And that's the catch done, Simon. The bunch is all back as one across the dirt. Peregrino swept up, his brave little adventure over. The tell is GravelRodeo. After flinging that bridge, who's drifted to the back at barely a watt a kilo, completely wrung out, recovering on the move while everyone else simply resets. 2 riders spent matches on that move, and they bought the group exactly nothing but a regroup before the kicker.
And credit to TonyM, written off sliding backward a few minutes ago, and here he is, stamping again as the road kicks up onto that inner road riser. Over 3.5 watts per kilo, surging back up through the group. The legs have come back to him, Chloe, and he's not done with this race yet.
It's not heroism, Simon, it's plumbing. The moment a rider eases and tucks back into the draft, the systemic strain bleeds straight back off and the legs refill. That's the whole trap of a regroup. It hands almost everyone a reset, which is exactly why a first lap like this rarely settles a thing. All that fizz and fury, and we cross back over the line with the field essentially intact, and the real decision's still ahead.
Spoken like the cold-blooded scientist you are, Chloe. All that fire and fury filed under introductions. But that's the beauty of a 2-lap finale, isn't it? Everyone gets to bank their lessons from the first time round and bring them back sharpened. The road's about to tip down off this kicker and hand them all a breather, and then the second loop is where the homework gets marked.
And he's at it again, Simon. That's the single sharpest acceleration anyone's produced all race. GravelRodeo flicking the pace up on the kicker like the last move never happened. Remarkable engine to recover that fast. But his power bar is the one quietly filling, and a rider can only strike the same match so many times before there's no flair left in it.
And there it is! Peregrino's lightning bolt has emptied right out, and it's flashing! That is a brand new power best, Chloe. The most he has ever sustained over a long effort, and he's doing it right now on the steepest pinch of this kicker. All that early bravado, all that forcing, it's culminated in him going somewhere he has simply never been before. An extraordinary, record-breaking ride from the Mexican.
And look at the cost of holding this pace, Simon. Carara's flame bar is nearly flashing, his systemic load right up against the ceiling, almost 5 watts a kilo to stay glued to the front over this kicker. He's a whisker away from going past the power his body says he's got left. That's a rider absolutely on the rivet. And if this kicker had another 200 meters in it, he'd be in real bother.
And TonyM has done the impossible. He's gone past his own limit. The fire bar has flashed empty, Chloe, and he's producing more power than his body was ever supposed to have left in the tank. The man we wrote off sliding backwards 20 minutes ago has clawed all the way back and torn straight through his systemic ceiling. A redefining, never-been-there-before effort to drag himself over this kicker. Oh, absolutely sensational.
And that kicker just drew the single biggest sustained effort of the whole race out of Carara, Simon. But mercifully for him, the road's now plunging to the bridge, so his flame bar is already refilling as he tucks and freewheels. They're all gratefully shedding strain on this drop, and they'll want every drop of it back because the moment this descent ends, the road points up to the Shisa, and that one doesn't relent for the better part of 5 minutes.
So this is the shape of it as they sweep over the bridge and onto the decider, Chloe. A lead group of 9, and the board tells you exactly who's loaded for it. Poole is the freshest man in the race, barely a fifth of his systemic bar touched. Cam and Selix sitting just as pretty alongside him. Peregrino's still there, but his lightning bolt is all but spent after that record effort. And 2 who burned too bright are already paying. Hands slipped a few seconds off the back. GravelRodeo's lost the wheel completely and sits adrift. Oyster, sadly, is over 2 minutes gone. 5 minutes of climbing to the Shisa now decides this race. Who's read it best, Chloe?
Whoever's the most boring, Simon. That's the honest answer. A 2% grind this long doesn't reward a single brilliant dig. It rewards the rider who can hold a hair under his ceiling for 5 unbroken minutes without ever tipping over it. There's nowhere to hide and no descent to bail you out. The selection here isn't made by an attack, it's made by attrition. So watch the flame bars, not the legs. The first one to flash empty is the first one out the back.
The first one to flash empty. What a chilling way to put it. And up here, the noise just drains out of a bike race, doesn't it? No shouting, no attacks, just 9 men staring at a stem and the old stone guardian watching them climb toward it. Somewhere in this silence, the elastic is about to snap. We just don't know whose yet.
And right now, the eerie part is how level the board is, Simon. 9 flame bars all sitting in the amber together. Nobody yet tipping into the red. They're climbing as one, each man matching the next, every one of them quietly daring somebody else to be the first to crack.
And it's Flores who takes up the tempo at the head of it. 4 watts a kilo, metronomic, and crucially, his flame bar's barely a third gone. The old hand is grinding the pace up and up, stringing the group into a line behind him. Nobody's been shelled just yet, Chloe, but he's turning the screw, daring someone, anyone, to be the wheel that lets go.
And here's the one that should worry the rest of them, Simon. Poole has quietly slid up to the sharp end, and he's doing it on a good chunk less power than the men grinding around him. Flame bar still glowing green, barely a third gone. That's the freshest set of legs in the race, sitting exactly where he wants to be over the top of this climb. Sheltered, patient, and saving everything for a finish where he's the fastest man here. Sneaky, effective, annoyingly well-timed.
And now it's beginning to tell. Flores keeps driving, 4.5 watts a kilo at the head of affairs, and the group is fraying into a long, thin, fragile line behind him, the front of it edging away, the tail starting to come unstitched. This is the selection being made in slow motion, Chloe, exactly the attrition you promised, and Flores is the man with his hand on the screw.
And this is where TonyM's heroics start to come due, Simon. The road's reared up past 5% here, and he's buried deep in the red again, both heart and flame bars draining together. He's giving absolutely everything to hold this wheel, but the gap's just beginning to open in front of him. That earlier effort past his ceiling was magnificent, but you only get to rob that bank once, and the steepest ramp of the day is asking for it back.
And there it is! The brave man has cracked! Peregrino has lost the lead group on the Shisa, slipping out the back as the road bites. And here's the heartbreak of it, Chloe. Even as he's being shelled, his lightning bolt has flashed empty again! Another power best! Every last watt wrung out in a desperate fight to hold that wheel. He has emptied himself utterly, but the elastic has gone, and all that early courage is being paid for in full right here.
And the response is written all over Joe's board, Simon. His lightning bolt has flashed empty, a brand new power best, as he throws everything at holding this chase together near the top. A move has splintered off the front, and Joe is one of the men refusing to let it ride away, emptying his power reserves completely to keep the gap from blowing wide open. That's a personal best produced in pure desperation.
And it's TonyM doing the work to keep them honest, the great battler of the day, flinging himself at the front of the chase near the top, heart and flame bars both screaming, trying with everything he has to keep those 2 leaders within touching distance. If he can drag this group over the crest still in contact, that long descent to come gives them a real shot at clawing it back.
So here's the selection the Shisa has carved out, Simon, right at the summit. Flores has gone clear and alone, about 7 seconds up, but read his flame bar. He spent enormously to do it, deep in the red. Then a fascinating no man's land. Selix cracked off the back of Flores and is stranded on his own, 2 or 3 seconds adrift of the leader, and the same again ahead of the chase. And that chase is 6 strong over the top, with Poole right in it. He's had to dig to be here, not quite as fresh as he was, but he's there. Crucially, the bamboo descent starts now. That's the lifeline. Free speed to drag Flores back before he can settle.
And keep an eye on Cam in this chase group, Chloe. Of everyone left in it, his flame bar is the freshest by a distance, barely touched. He's sitting in, soaking up the free speed of this descent, doing nothing he doesn't have to. Because up front, this is threatening to become a 2-man move, and if the chase does haul it back, a rider this fresh is exactly who you don't want lurking.
And this descent is pure arithmetic, Simon. Gravity hands everyone the same free speed, so a small move off the front has nothing extra to gain from the road. The chase, with more bodies to share the air and take turns, should descend faster than one or two riders alone. So unless those out front cooperate flawlessly, the numbers say this gap tumbles before the bottom. The one thing that protects a lead here isn't watts. It's the chasers behind sitting up and looking at each other.
Sitting up and looking at each other. And that's the whole drama of these next 90 seconds, isn't it? 6 chasers plunging through the bamboo, every one of them wanting the catch, but none wanting to be the mug who tows the sprinters back for free. The road flattens onto the boardwalk in a moment, and the instant it does, somebody has to stop looking and start working.
And here's the problem for the chase-in-one rider, Simon. Joe's flame bar has refilled almost to the brim on this descent. He's completely recovered. Wonderful for him, but every man around him has done exactly the same, and that's precisely why nobody's driving. The whole group's gone to sleep, freshening up, and the gap to the two out front is stubbornly holding at 6-7 seconds. The descent was the lifeline, and the chase is letting it slide through their fingers.
And there's the move! Poole has detonated! The fastest finisher in the race has stopped waiting and flung himself off the front of that chase. An explosive dig nudging 700 watts as the descent bottoms out. He's done with looking at the others, Chloe. He's gone, hunting down the two leaders himself. This is the bridge attempt the chase has been crying out for.
Simon, I have never seen this. All 3 of Poole's bars have flashed empty at the same instant. Heart, Flame, and Lightning Bolt, every one of them maxed out together. He has gone past the absolute ceiling of what his body was ever supposed to produce by a country mile to fling himself across that gap. And it's worked. He's latched onto the front. That is the single greatest effort this race has produced, full stop. He has redefined his own limit to get there.
And Flores slams the door instantly. The moment that bridge lands, he's back on the front on the boardwalk. 4 watts a kilo, determined to make this stick. 3 riders clear now, and the old hand driving to turn a fragile junction into a winning move. Behind them, one lone chaser is stranded in no man's land, and the rest are scattering. The decisive break of this race may just have formed, Chloe.
So the race has its shape now, Simon, and it's a front 4. Flores, Poole, Selix, and Joe, who's clawed his way across too. And they've stretched it out to a genuine 10 seconds on the chase, which is fading fast behind. With around 5 kilometers left and the road mostly flat to the line, this is the winning move, barring a collapse. Read the board for the sprint, though. Poole's got the fastest finish of the 4 by a street, but he's the one who spent everything bridging across. Selix is quick too and slightly fresher. Joe's the freshest legs of all, but the least pure speed. And Flores, he's the engine who won it hard and honest, not a sprint.
And that's the exquisite tension of a 4-man move, isn't it? For the next few kilometres, they're allies. They have to be. Every turn they share keeps that chase buried. But cross the line together and one of them wins while 3 of them lose. So they'll collaborate beautifully right up until the instant they don't. And somewhere on this coastal run, the handshake quietly turns into a knife fight.
Yeah, and that knife fight starts earlier than you'd think, Simon. I've been in that exact 4-man move, mate, and nobody's really resting. You're all doing turns while secretly sizing up the other 3, working out who's bluffing about being tired. The bloke who looks the most cooked is usually the one lying through his teeth. Trust nothing you see on the fronty. It's all a poker game now.
And what a contribution from Joe! The man who looked cooked clawing across is now the one on the front doing the work, and his lightning bolt has flashed empty as he does it. Another power best, the biggest sustained effort of his day. He's not just clinging to this move, Chloe, he's driving it, punching well above himself to keep that chase out of sight, heart and soul into the front of this break.
And Flores is still the one rolling through on the front, Simon, but the board says this is quietly turning against him. At this steady tempo, every flame bar in the move is refilling, his rivals included. And a recharging sprinter is the last thing an engine like Flores wants behind him. He needs to make this brutal, not comfortable. If he tows 3 recovered men to a kicker and a flat finish, he's lit the fuse on his own ambush.
Lit the fuse on his own ambush. What a phrase, and what a coastline to light it on. The water glittering, the festival lanterns strung out along the outer road, and 4 tired men suddenly very interested in each other's shoulders. There's one last sting in this course, remember, a short, sharp kicker inside the final kilometre. That little ramp is the springboard, and everything from here is just jockeying to hit it in the right place.
And on a finish shaped like this one, Simon, raw top speed is almost a side issue. It's about who crests that kicker with the most left and glued to the right wheel. Hit the bottom of it boxed in or a fraction too deep into the red, and the fastest sprint in the world launches from too far back to matter. This is won in the next 2 kilometers of positioning, long before anybody actually sprints.
Won before anybody sprints. You've just described a sprint finish with no sprinting in it, Chloe, and somehow made it sound thrilling. That's the magic of this booth, isn't it? You hand me a chess endgame and I'll sell it as a duel at dawn. And in about 3 kilometers, gloriously, we both turn out to be right.
And the picture's hardened, Simon. The front 4 have all fully recharged on this drag. Every flame bar back to green. And the gap to the chase has frozen solid at 9 seconds. The maths is done. That chase isn't coming back. And barring a disaster, the winner is one of these 4. So it's exactly the scenario Flores feared. 4 rested riders, a kicker to launch off, and a flat dash to the banner. Poole has the quickest legs of them. Selix close behind. But every one of them knows it now. And that makes the next 2 kilometers pure poker.
And there's the first flicker of the poker game, Chloe. Poole nudging the pace, shuffling himself into the slot he wants among the 4. Nothing reckless, just the fastest man here quietly making sure he isn't the one caught on the wrong wheel when that kicker arrives. The jockeying has begun in earnest.
And here's the subtlety the green flame bars are hiding, Simon. Yes, they've all recovered systemically, but every one of their lightning bolts is nearly drained from the day's efforts. So this won't be a fresh top-end sprint. It's about who's hoarded that one last match. Whoever's been cleverest about hiding from the wind these last few kilometers has it. Whoever's done the most pulling does not.
And you can feel it tightening now, the 4 of them bunching up. No more long, generous turns, everyone suddenly reluctant to be the one in the wind. The coast road is running out, that final kicker is looming into view, and the polite little truce is about to shatter. Hold on to something, Chloe, here it comes.
And there's the proof, Simon. Joe's heart bar is nearly flashing and his lightning bolts emptied out yet again, still doing honest work on the front as the road tips toward that kicker. He is the bravest man in this move, no question. But that's his last match going up in smoke right now, and a flat sprint is unforgiving to a rider who arrives at it with nothing left to throw.
And now Joe's heart bar is flashing too, completely maxed, a cardiac effort he's never touched before, and still he's the one on the front hauling them toward the kicker. Utterly heroic, Chloe, but he is emptying the very last of himself to do it. The question is whether there's a single beat left in him when this ramp arrives.
And the road's about to bite, Simon. That boardwalk kicker is right on top of them now. It's barely 200 meters of climbing, but it's the single best place left to launch, and it's where someone's patience finally runs out. Watch the bars flare the instant the front wheel tips up. This is the trigger.
Yeah, and spare a thought for one back here, Simon. I'm watching Peregrino and the chase group, and the bloke's just gone and set another power best. Out of the wind, dropped on the sheeser, completely cooked, and he's still grinding out numbers he's never hit in his life. That's the most stubborn ride of the day, mate. He's lost the race, but he's having the day of his life with the data. Proper hard man, that one.
And Poole has timed it beautifully, up and over the kicker right at the front. The fastest man in the move hitting that ramp in exactly the spot he wanted. Still with a touch of green in his flame bar, perfectly placed as the road crests and tips toward the line. Now it's a dash for the banner, Chloe, and he holds every ace.
And Joe has nothing left to hide, Simon. Both his heart and his power bars are pegged flat at the ceiling as they hit the run to the line. He has emptied every reserve a body can hold to be here. The bravest engine in the race. But he's arriving at the sprint completely wrung dry. Exactly when he needs that one last kick most.
And here comes the dash to the line. They tip onto the drop. Joe's still on the front, but utterly cooked. And now they swarm him. Poole opens
opens it up, the fast man going early, but Selix is on his wheel. Flores hurls himself into it on the far side, and Joe is shelled, sliding backwards out the back. 3 abreast now, flat out for the banner, and you cannot separate them. Poole's tank running bone dry, Selix coming over the top, Flores flying. Inside the final meters, shoulder to shoulder, bikes thrown at the line. And it's Selix! Selix snatches it by a tyre. Flores agonisingly denied. Poole pipped back to 3rd. Oh, what a finish on the boardwalk! And Selix is your winner on the Island Hopper. One of your 2 pre-race favourites, Chloe. Vindicated on the line by the width of a tyre from Flores, with Poole holding on for 3rd. And what a story the data told today. Poole produced the single greatest effort of the race to bridge across, but it cost him the one thing he needed most at the banner, that last turn of speed. The fastest man here beaten because he'd already spent his sprint 20 minutes ago getting to the front.
Textbook, Simon. Selix won this by being the most boring man in the move when it mattered, hiding from the wind, hoarding that one last match, then unloading a best-ever sprint in the final meters. Patience beat pure speed. But the heart of the day belongs to Joe, who set best after best, dragging that break clear and emptied himself completely for 4th. And to every rider out there who went somewhere new today, a cracking bike race on the Makuri coast. From Simon, Robbo, and me, thanks for watching, look after yourselves, and we'll see you next time.